All right, in this quick video, we're going to continue from the last session and we're going to talk about annotations and annotative scales, annotative text, annotative dimensions. What annotation does is, let's say we're in the viewport, we are playing with three different scales. You have 1 is to 100 and 1 is to 20 and 1 is to 5. And now if you want to label something, you want to write a dimension. And the same dimension is at 1 is to 5 will appear a little big, whereas same dimension is 1 to 100 will appear almost like not visible. So we have to make sure that internally CAD recognizes these scaling up and scaling down and make sure all of these text dimensions are the same size. Now we don't of course want if it's like center to center distance of let's say 2000. Now only the size of the text 2000 and the arrows should change. So for 1 is to 100 it should become a little bigger because it's just a tiny scale, and for 1 is to 5 it should become a little smaller because it's a blown up scale. So that's for dimension, but we do not want the 2000 to change. The 2000 in like the way we do our scaling manually, we sort of divide it and make a 500 line if it's a 1 to 4, and then it actually in 1 is to 1 would transcend into 1 to 2000. We don't have to do any of that. So we're going to quickly look into how to use annotative text, how to play with scales. uh, I'm going to quickly jump into my model tab, and let's say for example this particular thing, this dimension, I have the dimension thing open here, and let's say I make this li and I sort of try to dimension something here. Okay, now I set this up with some readable arrow size, let's say 40. I scroll down, scroll down, scroll down with some readable text size, say again 40, and this is my arrow size, and that okay, it makes perfect sense on 1 to 1. But when you go back to the sheet space or the layout or the paper space, I see that this thing here is too big, 200, and that dimension on the top left is too tiny. Now we want it to be the same because that's what a drafting standard demands, right? It makes sense to have all these and not these crazy up and down scales. I go back to my model space. What I do is I click on this dimension. Under the standard on the properties tab, if it's not open, you can press it, you can open it by either typing PR enter, or you can right click on the dimension and select properties. But my properties tab is open here on the left. So under the dimension style, which is standard, most of the time it's going to be set at standard. You can name it whatever when you create in dimension style, but that's in a different video. I click on annotative and I drop down to annotative yes. Now I select, now my whole thing changes. I have to imagine what it's gonna be in like the final sheet. Final sheet, maybe I want it to be 3 mm. Okay, I scroll down and I want my text also to be not 40 but 3 mm. And now don't be scared that this will sort of disappear. But what will happen is if you go back to the paper space, one more thing, sorry, I go back to my model space, I click on here, I click on this annotative scale. I have to select that what all scales I need to be scaling into. I'm working in, for this particular detail, I'm working in into 1 to 5 for the blown up, and I press the control key and I hold it and I select 1 to 20 for the plan, and I click on OK. Alright, so I'm going to be working on all these three scales so that CAD knows where to annotate, what to annotate, how much to annotate. So for this particular dimension, I am going to be working on these three scales, so I will press OK. If I go back to the layout, you can see this 200 at 1 to 5 scale and that 200 and 1 to 5 scale have beautifully just uh, become uniform. They're the same size across two different, very different scales. Now, interesting thing is, if I just show you a quick demo, I click on this, and if I try to play with the scale a little bit, I try to uh, make the scale a little tiny, you see it automatically changes to 2000. I'll do it once again. I do it once to 5, and it shifts again to at whatever scale it was supposed to annotate into. So yeah, here it quickly just goes back once again, and yeah, it automatically arranges to it has to show, its duty is to show the sheet text as 3 mm that we had fixed. So I'll go back to 1 to 5, and then it's going to show same thing for nothing much. Now that's the basic idea here. We set up the annotative scale. Let's say we have to show the beam bar. I'll do something known as multi-leader. I'll select this, and I'll switch off my ortho. I'll make an arrow, and sorry, I'll do MLT, which is multi-leader. I'll click on this, and I'll say type beam bar. Okay, now it disappears, and you'll be like, whoa, what happened? But I'll click on this. That's because no need to worry. My arrow size is 0. I want to make it more readable, like let's say 40. So it sort of is readable, and this 1:1 size, and maybe again 1:, like I'll make it 40, and that's there. That makes sense. But when I go back to layout, again, beam bar is so big in 1:5 and it's tiny in 1:20 because I've I have to still switch on the annotation. Very simple. I click on this under the standard annotative, yes. Under annotation scale, go back to this tiny dialog box. Add the scales you're going to be working on. I'm going to be working on 1:5. Press left control. 1:20. Press OK. Add these scales and you're done. Now we go back to arrowhead. This arrowhead is going to be what I need in the paper space. I just want 300 mm, and again I scroll down, so my size again going to be 3 mm. And now don't be scared, it's just, now if you click on this, funnily it will show you all the different scales. These are ghost sizes. Don't be scared. This is the tiny, this is 1:1, this is 1:5, this is 1:20. So I mean, you can press escape, and when you go back to the layout, you can see that it's uniform in both the sizes, 1:5 and 1:20. So that is one thing which kind of helps in annotating. So that's annotative multi-leader and annotative dimension. Coming back to annotative text, I go back to my model space. I leave this here, and let's say I want to add a text of, I would text, specify start point, this, specify height, I would make it 50. 50 seems fine to me. I'll press enter, and rotation angle 0. I then press enter, and now I can start typing as drawing room. Now I can't see it because it's in the gray layer. So sorry, I forgot to change the layer. I click on this, and I can change the layer. Get a quick run through of how to change layers, and this is how it is. I want a little bigger, so I'll click on it, and I want to probably make it to 100. This seems a little reasonable to me, but again, when I go back to my layout space, it is really tiny. You see, I can see beam bar, which is at 3 mm, 200 dimension at 3 mm, but I want to be able to see this. So I go back, same old thing. I click on this. Under the annotative, I switch on yes. And what scale I'm going to be working on? I'm going to be working on 1:100. That's what my key plan is in. So okay, all right, cool. Uh, Now it suddenly changes to what is your paper text height. My paper text height cannot be 100. My sheet is hardly 594 mm wide. So I would again want to keep it at 3 mm, right? And now you'll see it will disappear funnily. If I click on it, you can see how it's going to be the ghost 100 mm, sorry, 1:100 scale size of 3 mm, and this thing. Now it may be a little confusing. What you can do is I can click on this, so how it will appear on my sheet. I can move it a little bit more. Now it disappears finally. That's a little annoying thing, but okay, when I go back to my paper space, I can see my drawing room pretty much visible. Now I can change all of these things here. I don't have to go to the model tab. I can go to the model space here on the sheet, ms enter. Now this one is selected, so I'll just put control R, toggle into this one, click here, and maybe move around a little bit, and yeah, there it goes. Now if I want to really work on it in terms of like, make it in a multi-line text, I did not do it. I can click on this, click on express tools, convert to multi-line text, and now it's a multi-line text. You can also see anything that I select which is annotated. I'll have this tiny triangle which is your triangular scale. So it show that this text is annotated. If I roll back to here, go back to paper space, this is not annotated. So I'm not having, it won't show me that little tiny symbol of annotation or annotation on. I go back to my model space. What I was doing was I was double clicking it, making it, enabling the multi-line text, and sort of perfecting this, the paragraph style and all of that. And now my, go back to paper space, and that's how. Now again, I can label it so much. I have to label, I can extend this entire thing, and you can label this area, you can label, know uh, all of the plan, and you can put in dimensions, and so many dimensions have to, probably the dimension of center to center, dimension of how much cranking length is going to be, and all of that. So you can use all of that, and annotation really helps. So that's about